Thanks for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. You can find us wherever you find podcasts or listen to music. When you have an opportunity, please give us a 5-star review, write a little note, tell us how we're doing. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep this thing going. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at Facebook at Hidden Tracks. Instagram is at HiddenTracks99, and if you'd like to send in submissions or talk to us or give us any feedback about what we're doing, our email is myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show.
God, I feel like everyone I know is getting good jobs and stable homes where everything's made of gold. Well, here I am, still playing shows and eating out every night, just cheap tacos, cracking packs, cracking jokes. But it keeps turning, ever twining thread. Like snipping it. Holy shit, I feel like quitting everything. School, job, and music industry. Out for me, I think I'll make it through another year. I'm glad that you're still kicking around here. My number one reason, we'll time for another season. Let's write a chorus that everyone can scream. Let's come up with another fucking scheme. Listening to Dan Deacon, writing lines about Steven.
What's up, everybody? Another week, another edition of the show. I have Holden Wolf from the awesome band out of Baltimore called Combat. I'm not going to genre label. I'll let him do that himself as we get further along. But welcome to the show, Holden. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. So exciting news. Finally released your full-length debut album. I know a lot of trials and tribulations will always lead up to finally seeing a dream come true. I mean, how do you feel about, being able to finally have something fully completed and done and ready for the masses to hear?
It feels kind of crazy because I spent a really, probably the last 2 years, conceptualizing it. Not that it's super deep or conceptual or anything, but I kind of haven't really gotten out of my head about it. It feels like I'm still working on it, even though I'm definitely not still working on it. I kind of haven't come to grips with the fact that it's actually out, which is cool. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is unfortunately, no songs are ever complete, right?
Right.
You can always add to them, and I think the pressures come with getting your first, just getting it out there, right? I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
sometimes you get into your own head of what to do prior to it releasing, and there's so much you can do, and oh, maybe we should have done this once, and at the end of the day, I'll be perfectly honest, I'll sit here and tell you, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
completed, it's done. You can do whatever you want to it when you go play live shows. You can change things that you thought you wanted on that recording, and then you can give the listeners a new experience, you know.
Yeah, that honestly, that was a really big thing for us when we were working on it. Which is that on our prior record, we the whole band hadn't played most of the songs on our last album until like I think the night before we went in to record it. And we play all those songs a lot differently now, like with just different things we thought about adding. And so for this one, we explicitly like toured a bunch, playing a bunch of unreleased songs so that we could like get a feel for it and like pick out all the cool, fun things uh, we can do. And it'll like vastly changed the sound of how the album came out. Just like having the opportunity to workshop them as though they were already released.
I mean, it's a great way to do it because you never know if something's going to work until you can see how people receive it, right? When
Oh
you
yeah,
release
absolutely.
something into the atmosphere now, it just fucking goes out there and you have no idea. I don't, and far from me to say what does hit and doesn't hit, but how the fuck do you really know if someone listened to your music? And when I say listen to it, not heard the first 20 seconds and skip to the next song on some random playlist, how do you really fucking know? You don't know because album sales are kind of non-existent nowadays.
Right,
So
right,
you
of
don't
course.
really know. So seeing it is how you can actually be like, oh, that, did you see the people's reaction to that? Like, okay, we got to do that in the song when we go record it. So
Mhm,
that's a great
mhm.
barometer of trying to figure that out.
Yeah. No, there's a very, very obvious instance of that in the title track of the album. There's a part where like the whole band comes out and there's like a gang vocal where it says "Hey Holden," uh, and was not in the song for the first like 10 times we played it until we were like, oh, we should try doing that. And then every subsequent time we did that, people were like, whoa. So I think, yeah, it works. It works. It's cool finding out how people feel about something.
Yeah, that's an awesome technique to figure things out. Why don't you give us a little backstory about how combat kind of became a thing and to where it is, today, right now, with music out in the universe and people, reacting to what you've done on stage and preparation for this record.
Sure. Um, started Comet really technically started like December of 2019. Uh, I just kind of figured out how to write songs and record songs entirely by myself. I was in a couple of prior bands that had written and recorded stuff as a band, but I'd never just tried to go out and do everything by myself. And then when COVID came along, I decided I would just try to flesh out some EPs and release them. And mostly for my own enjoyment. My friends seemed to like them a good bit, so I kept doing them. Then in maybe August, no, not August, like June or July of 2021, I played like an outdoor show with a quote unquote official lineup, um, like a band lineup kind of deal. Um, and the lineup for that was pretty much just friends I had that I'd played in prior bands with, or people I knew who were like fairly close that played music. And I want to say that our current bassist and our current lead guitarist both played that show. So it was like the lineup has almost not changed at all since then. As far as like super core members, besides our drummer, who's uh, been playing with us now for 2 to 3 years. Um, but yeah, like August of 2021, we went on our first tour, um, and subsequently our second and third like weekender um, mini tours, and then we just kept doing it, and I kept writing songs, and then yeah, went into a studio to record our first record. It's our first proper studio experience ever. And then my freshman year of college, I started writing this new one, and I've just been playing shows all the time, constantly.
Nice. Now, what was it for you as a kid that really guided you towards music? Do you have like a specific memory of, when you heard something that completely changed your life and said, wow, what the fuck is that? Though I need to find out more about it.
Um, so I music live music was a really mundane thing for me for a really long time because I grew up around a very active Baltimore DIY art space that had like a ton of ridiculous shows all the time, and uh, my dad was one of the people who helped run that, so I would always kind of, very often I would just be there at shows, kind of just playing on my DS. But if it speaks to the mundanity of it, it was just like, oh, this is the thing I have to go to. So I guess I never really thought of it as a very cool thing. It kind of just felt like something that people who were adults did. And then I honestly think that the first time I started really getting into music on my own, like my own personal guided exploration into music, was more than likely Green Day or Linkin Park. I think it was Linkin Park first, because I really liked like Halo and video games like that, and there were lots of videos on YouTube of people mashing up Green Day songs and Linkin Park songs to Halo. I'm like, whoa, this music's awesome. Uh, and then Linkin Park kind of left for me, but I stayed into Green Day, and then started finding weirder music, and then reconnecting with uh, like old friends later in life to find out that they're super into music, and then talking with them about it, and yeah.
So what do you label as weirder music?
Like electronic stuff, or weird punk stuff. I honestly think finding like bands like Gorillaz when I was really young opened me to a lot more different kinds of music, but like still being into it, because their records have a lot of different shit on it.
Yeah.
And then like finding things in the internet like Dan Deacon or Animal Collective, or a bunch of far more obscure bands. When I started getting into punk music when I was like 12, because I would see Dead Milkman stickers everywhere. I like at some point I was like, oh, I'm gonna Google what that is, and then I got into that and got into Minor Threat. And from Minor Threat, I started getting into a bunch of like all the DC Discord bands like Fugazi and Embrace and Rites of Spring and stuff like that. And then from being obsessed with Fugazi, then it's just like a whole world of like experimental music and like noise music and that kind of jazz.
It's a rabbit hole that never ends.
Yeah, it was bad. It was, yeah. I spent a lot of time on Wikipedia and Discogs and looking at people who played on other people's records and stuff like that.
That'll go on for the rest of your life. You'll never truly know how many people there were, especially at that time. I was having a conversation the other day about, the 90s, how I say it was the greatest, and sometimes it's, I'm going to feel that way because it was my generation. I was graduating high school and all that. But I say it was the greatest exploration in music. It was when you could have 1 week Mariah Carey is the number one song. The next week it's Blink 182. The next week it's Pearl Jam. The next week it's Chemical Brothers. Like,
I
there
about
was
that all the time. Like
it was crazy. There's so much stuff back then, and it was like, I don't think we've seen that kind of exploration in music that was prevalent in the 90s, with all that type of stuff. Every week was something new. Then you had fucking new metal come along, and it was all there. Boy bands it was just like, what the fuck? You didn't know what was good or not, or what was popular or not, or there was all this type of stuff, and it was so hard to wrap your head around what you could find. And I think back at that time, you label them as weirder, but it was easier for people of my generation to connect with a minor threat because it was harder to get, and it was
Oh yeah,
something
for
that
sure.
you could kind of feel like ownership of, right? You didn't have to, you weren't listening to it because you were told to by MTV or Z100 or anything like that. You were just like, hey, wow, I found this. Here's my community where I'm going to go.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like uh getting into weirder music now, like quote unquote weirder, not like I weirder music is in like things that people made on their own, and there wasn't a
Yeah.
giant label funding it and all that stuff. Getting into that is like way easier than I think I can even conceptualize that it is now. Um, Specifically within the last like 5 years. Regardless of how accessible the internet and everything makes it, I think that there have been a huge swath of bands within the last 5 or so years that have like bands from the 90s or bands from the 2000s who have all gotten like very very popular truly out of the blue, uh that I never would have expected, but it's like mainstream popular, like bigger than pop stars popular. Talking like bands like Duster, uh that was like a absolute weirdo bands that I got into when I was like in I was 14, 2018. um but that was like, oh, this is just for me. I like explicitly remember uh playing what was at the time the biggest Duster song for my guitar class, and then everybody being really upset with me and saying the song was boring and dumb. Uh, and now that band is one of the biggest bands in the world,
Yeah.
and
Hey,
it's
you got a good ear, man. I went through that in high school when I was running around with green hair saying Green Day was the best and Kerplunk was like my favorite album. And then a year later, fucking Dookie drops and everybody was wearing fucking Green Day shirts. And, the starting quarterback was wearing a Green Day shirt. And me, now I'm just left in the wind.
yeah, yeah. Um, I think overall it's a pretty good thing. I can have my reservations about it, but I think it's really awesome that uh more people are being open to more cool things at a extremely rapid pace, and everything is accessible to pretty much everybody
Well,
all
I
the time.
think that, it's that double edged sword. That's where I think it gets really tough, though, too, because there's, your album comes out, and at the same time, 90,000 albums are able to be streamed that came out that same day. So
Sure, yeah.
it's, segregating what is out there and what's coming out and how to find it. The fact that it's so accessible actually makes it harder to find, I feel. You're doing everything you can to get it out, right? You're creating your own brand as it comes to your band and trying to do everything on social media to get everybody to find out what it is you're doing and how you're doing it and all that kind of stuff. At the same time, so is everyone else. And you're trying to play that whole fucking game of falling into an algorithm or making sure someone sees your stuff just so you're hoping in the hopes. And don't I'm not like shitting on what it is you do. I'm just saying it's like you're hoping that it captures an audience that otherwise may not have seen it because you're fighting with other people for the same views, right? And the same listens and same downloads. You're constantly fighting for it. And I think that's why I say, well, yeah, it's easier, but it's also harder, especially for artists creating great stuff. Like I absolutely love your album, and then you could have someone whose album is complete dog shit that's garnering more views on TikTok or something, and that's getting more streams than you. And to me, that's where I start to get pissed off. When there's awesome bands out there that are fighting the good fight, and then someone who's making fart noises on his fucking accordion is getting a million streams. It's like, no, there's actually people with talent out there doing good stuff.
So I fully see where you're coming from there, because I feel like that is like a very obvious uh position to have. However, I only have this stance being me and knowing how my band got to where we were. I like I don't think I ever used social media to like get to where I was, uh or hope that I hit algorithms to so that people like my stuff. Pretty much none of the music I have ever made has ever been like that I've ever seen through. I've definitely tried to uh write things that I'm like, oh, maybe people like this. But everything I've ever made that I have now released, like, it's kind of just entirely for me, and it's a fucking miracle that people like it. Um,
Well, that's a
and
good
so,
attitude to have. Like,
oh
and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
yeah, that's a great. And I look at that as, and a lot of times, I've spoke with younger artists and said, hey, listen, you don't need to try to create a song that's 3 minutes and 43 seconds to fall into a playlist. Create the song that you want to fucking create, and it'll find the person that it needs to, because that's the most important part of it.
yeah, yeah. I'm absolutely of that belief, and also like, uh, because I have friends who uh do the social media thing, and like it really truly does help their band. But I look at it as like something I don't even really have to compete with, because I do find that like a lot of the buzz that you get from being a band that's super active in social media and trying to latch onto the algorithm as well as you can, uh it will reflect in like monthlies and such, but it's more often than not the kind of people that I want at my shows. Not that they're doing anything wrong, but uh I my band is very much just like, to me anyway, like a dumb DIY punk band. And I feel like a lot of the appeal, again, to me, is that it's just like, oh, it's like, it's those other bands I like. And that's I want the people at my shows that are the same people at the shows that I'm going to for my favorite bands. Um, and so I don't honestly feel like I'm missing out very much by not going crazy on algorithm stuff, because I really like who I'm attracting with what I'm doing, which is kind of not doing much.
What brought you to wanting to, play music? What was it that, because there's a moment where you pick up an instrument or you start writing songs. What was that moment where you wanted to make a go of it?
I kind of like was nudged toward um picking
From your
up
dad who was
music.
running shows?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um and I was in some like music programs when I was younger. No like like school band things. Like to this day can't really read sheet music, but I didn't really have too much passion for it. Like I'd gotten fairly like decently competent at playing bass, and like had started to kind of learn how to play guitar. Uh, but I can pin down the very exact instance in which I decided that I wanted to form a band, which was that this guy, I think his name is Justice Yeldon, from New Zealand. Um, he's from Australia. My bad. He's a noise artist who plays like a harsh noise artist who plays music by rubbing shards of glass on his face, and like with like contact mics, and like runs it through crazy effects pedals. He played on a Death Grips album, which is how me and my friends found him. But we just like were enamored with crazy performance based noise music. Like things like Murs Bow and Hannah Teresh and Masana and stuff like that. And we found out that he was coming to Baltimore, and we wanted to see him and also probably open for him, because I don't, it was just like a weirdo thing, and we didn't think anybody would, or not that many people would really be there, and we figured our chances were pretty high. So me and my friends started a noise rock band.
What was the name of that
Very,
band?
it's called Dakota Condition. Um,
It's not a
very in
terrible
the
name for a first band. Not a terrible name.
being 15,
Yeah.
we like recorded an album in our basement, and mixed it ourselves, and it sounds, I think, better than 15-year-olds in their basement recording and mixing themselves. And we didn't actually get to open for him because we took too long trying to become a band. But that was how I got really, really passionate about music, which was more so than the actual music side of things, the performance part. So we would do stupid things, like I tried to figure out how to tape a guitar pedal to my bass so that I could, and get like wireless receivers so I could run around in the crowd and have my only pedal attached to my bass, so we could be very performative. Um, and yeah, that's where a lot of my passion came from, was just like realizing how cool playing music in front of people can be. And that I just have been going since that.
When was the first time you performed in front of strangers then?
2019. I was 15.
Wow.
At the music venue that we now operate, the Undercroft in Baltimore.
Awesome. And so that from that moment on, you're just like, yeah, I need to just perform.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I wouldn't say that it was like oh, this is my calling, but it was very like, oh, this is so fun. I just got to make dumb, weird noises that I thought sounded cool, but it wasn't just like noise music. It was kind of a rock band. And I remember distinctly, my mom came to see us and she had to leave because we had a looper pedal just looping really bad guitar sounds throughout the entire set as like a kind of drone, and she really didn't like it. And I think I took that as encouragement. I was like, oh, cool. Like, it's actually like abrasive. It's working. And so, yeah, that was definitely, I think it was a pretty good first experience playing music to actual strangers.
Yeah. I mean, that's hysterical. I mean, so do you have like any, for, to where you are today, any performances that stand out in your mind for good or bad that, occupy a small space in your brain that you think will be there forever?
Definitely one of the first big shows we played was our friends in the band Ogbert the Nerd asked us to play a show with them, maybe, I don't know, 5 months after we became a band, like a band in January 2022. Asked us to play at the Knitting Factory in Brooklyn. Wow. With them and this band Oolong and a great band called Best of the Worst. We're like a ska hardcore metalcore band that are fucking awesome. But that was like, whoa, I'm playing a multi-hundred cap venue in New York City. I'm 17 years old. Two of my favorite bands of all time are going to play after me. This is unbelievable. That's definitely up there for me. It's like one that I will not ever forget.
Yeah, and the Knitting Factory is no joke. There's a lot of history with that venue as well. I've seen numerous amount of shows. Yeah. Over my lifetime there. It's such a great place. Now, let's get back to the band itself right now as a whole. And when you're out there and you meet a stranger, okay, or you're sitting down in front of someone very influential, and you have to play them one song of yours that best describes who you are. What song of yours are you playing for them?
I'm probably playing the title track off our new album, which was also the first single that we showed off. because I very deliberately wrote it and chose it to be. It was always going to be the first song on the album. It was always going to be the first single if we did any singles, because I tried to squeeze everything that I think makes a song cool and makes a band cool into one song, and it's less than a second less than 2 minutes long. It on Spotify registers as 1 minute. Super attention grabbing. Lots of things to latch onto. When I made lots of friends on Twitter, on my band account, and there were lots and lots of people who knew about us, but none had really listened to our music because we had no music we were promoting. Like, I made all those friends after our last record had come out, and so there was nothing for them to like tell their friends about or whatever. It's just like, we knew each other and maybe you've listened to my band, but maybe not. And we put it on like a DIY label, and so there wasn't much there, but lots of people knew our name. And so when that single came out, it was a ginormous attention grabber. It was way more successful at getting people to talk about us than I ever could have possibly imagined. And I do think that it is because I tried to chemically create a song that would at least please somebody for a few seconds.
Would you say that's your favorite song you've created and released?
Definitely not.
So what's your favorite?
On my favorite is definitely on this newest one, and it's either Epic Season Finale, which was the second single we put out, and it's I want to say the second to last song, or the very last song, Redundant Explain Part 2. That one took me forever to actually finally write, but I got to do like 9 different things that I've always wished I could do on an album and have never. Not only did I think I lacked the ability to write it, I never thought that I'd be able to physically amass like a string section or horns, or get away with making an 8 or 9 minute long song seem cool, or having it loop into the first song. So yeah, I really like the Epic Season Finale. I think that song's really cool and catchy, and whenever we play it for people, it makes them like kind of raise that eyebrow because the rhythm's really weird. Or that last song, Weird Ending Part 2. I'm really, really proud of that one. I'm really glad that I was able to actually see to it.
Nice. So would you kind of list that as like maybe a sleeper track on the album that you're really hoping connects with people more so than its placement on an album?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think that I would have to be like pretty crazy if I didn't think that, like, if I was like expecting, because there's 2 7 and 9 minute songs. I think that's how long they are, respectively, on the album. I would not be honest with myself if I was saying and thinking that, like, oh, people are gonna love these. Like, everybody's gonna love these. It's not. That's all the songs on the record are for me, but those particularly were like, if people really, really, really like the album, then they can listen to those and be like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah, no, those, going into it, I was like, not expecting that anybody would like them. Not in a bad way, just they're not made for people to be like, hell yeah. Yeah.
Now, through the recording process and everything, I know you spend tons of time listening to everything that you're doing, and you're listening to what you're recording, and all the stuff's going on. Were you listening to anything else, any other artists, in the time that you were recording, or say you got stuck recording something and you're just looking for something for inspiration? Were you listening to something, in the background for yourself in your life at that time while you were going through the recording process for the album?
Probably not the actual recording process. I'll say that it was a really stressful recording process. It was really nice, and we recorded it with two people who I really very much, and I really don't think it would have been possible without Ryland from Origami Angel, who produced it, and our friend Alex from Snail Mail, who was engineering. But we were super down to the wire to make the very short window we had to record the album actually work. So we didn't have very much time to chill and listen to music. But writing the music, particularly when I started writing the album, the Black Engineer Road album, Ants From Up There, had come out, and it had come out maybe like a week or so into me actually starting to write the album, and that album was just on loop pretty much constantly, because I just needed to figure out how I could ever do something similar to that. And I honestly don't think that our music sounds alike kind of at all, but it really, really helped me as far as understanding how big I could go and what scope of a song I could actually write. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other things, but that was definitely one of the biggest inspirations. Same with the Monitor by Titus Andronicus, which I've been told by lots of people you can really hear on the album. That was another one where I kind of understood that there were lots of different things I could do with just making punk rock music, and still have it be cool, and figure out where people went too indulgent and how to not do that. Yeah, I'd say those two were the two biggest things that I was trying to listen to a lot to try to pull off.
Nice. And you did bring up something there is a fine line in punk where it can become a little too self-indulgent, and you have to know that line of where to cut it off. And that's sometimes very hard for artists. They don't know, and it's not their fault.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I think the thing that helped us a lot is that we don't really take ourselves seriously whatsoever. So there's some very serious sounding parts of the album that I think sound really pretty, like I was talking about strings and horns and stuff like that. While those were being recorded, I wasn't sitting there being wow, this is beautiful. I was giggling to myself, being this is on my album. That's stupid. And I think that that's really where we drew that line. And I'm sure it still is not, I'm sure it's still quite indulgent album, but we were at least sitting there thinking to ourselves, yeah, no, it's funny that we're the band that's doing this right now. And not taking ourselves too overly seriously.
Now, when it comes to the band, is everyone kind of I guess fall into the same pocket of what they listen to, or is everyone have just a wide variety of vast different taste in music, or are you guys all just funnel into kind of the same bands and you guys are all into sort of the same type of music?
I would say that all of us listen to a really crazy different amount of music. We don't really ever listen to punk music at all, kind of ever. Not that we never have. We've obviously to do what we do, we have to spend a lot of time listening to it.
Yes.
But it's not really ever anymore. And so I will say that I think that all of us kind of have the same taste in music, or if not extremely similar tastes in music. There are very few bands that we disagree on opinions about.
Okay.
And all the bands that we all love, we're all obsessed with, and we all love those things. But a lot of that is because we started hanging out with each other and talking with each other and sharing stuff with each other at a really young age. And so at least with in the case of the drummer and the bassist in my band, like we have known each other for a ridiculous amount of time, and we kind of introduced each other to all of our favorite bands, and so we were musically socialized in basically the same way. Not just musically, but in lots of other regards, like socially and like as far as what we think is funny and whatnot. But like there's so little differentiation over what each member of the band likes, because we kind of just grew up together and we're showing each other the same records and being obsessed with the same things. It's a very cool, and I would imagine very unique experience.
All right. Now, do you have what's your band that, I don't like to use the moniker favorite band. I like to look for a band who they just don't let you down when you don't know what you want to listen to. You just always find yourself going to this artist or band that you're just like, all right, I'm going to listen to this. And it, may so happen fall under the category of favorite band, but I always go for band, a band that never lets you down, that you just know is always there to pick you up.
Definitely either Bomb Music Industry, which is Jeff Rosenstock's old band, who all of us are super, super obsessed with. And if there's a member of the band that's not obsessed with them, they really like them, at the very least. Or Weezer, who I can confidently say every single member of the band is obsessed with. A lot, I think Weezer is a much better one, where it's like, oh, I can listen to this and it'll make me feel better no matter what. Because a lot of their music is just so dumb in a really awesome way, and there's a ridiculous amount of stuff to talk about. There's some really critically received, oh, this is a fucking incredible album stuff. And there's also lots of stuff where critics and the majority of people are like, dude, this is awful. And we will sit there and listen to it and just smile and know all the words to the songs. There's a lot of kind of recognizing that something is silly, but then once you get past that, realizing that music is kind of just awesome.
And Weezer's one of those
awesome.
Yeah, Weezer's one of those bands for me that I've always, fallen into my category of they're extremely overrated and extremely underrated, because they are overrated for their stuff that everybody fucking knows and listens to, but they're underrated for the stuff that, like you say, critics shit on. Some of this stuff is fucking amazing. I go down my list and I'll get fucking chastised for it, and I don't give a shit, but I'll go Pinkerton's their best album. I'll go my favorite album's Van Weezer, and then my third album would be the Blue Album.
Your favorite is Van Weezer.
Yeah, just because
that's awesome.
I wasn't expecting it, and it was fucking brilliant to hear it, and it ran my summer. It was my summer album. When something takes over my summer, and that's how I usually go over things, because when it's the most beautiful days out and the windows are down and you're driving fast or you're driving somewhere and you're singing at the top of your lungs, that's how I know. And that was just listen, Pinkerton's the best, and Van Weezer was my favorite. So that's where I fall. It took over fucking 5 months of my life. That was my summer album that year.
Yeah, that is an awesome take. I think that album, as far as late Weezer goes, is weirdly slept on. I think there's a bunch of singles on there that very well could have been on White Album, and it would have made sense still.
Yeah.
The record fucking rocks.
It absolutely does. I'm seeing them in September, so I can't fucking wait for that.
Yeah.
So is there, you grew up going to shows, right? Being forced to go to shows with dad and everything, but is there a show that a concert or a show that you just, in your mind, is the best live music experience you've ever had?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think there was one show that we had played in Silver Spring, Maryland, where in maybe 2021 or 2022, where right before our set in DC, which is maybe a 20-minute drive from where we were playing. In DC, the microphones were playing, and we're super obsessed with that band. And we got to see them play their album Microphones in 2020 in full. And that was the whole set list. It was just one 44-minute long song. And then we just walked out and drove back to try to play our show.
Wow.
And that was one of the best shows I've ever seen in my entire life, hands down. It was, the entire room was silent. It was one of the quietest and also one of the loudest shows I've ever been to all at once. It was like 25 minutes of like just kind of strumming on acoustic guitar and basically spoken word. And then the singer fell over and reached over and grabbed a bass guitar that was on just like a guitar stand and picked it up with one hand with an acoustic guitar still on him and just strummed that bass guitar, holding it by the neck. And it was the loudest sound I'd ever heard at a concert or at a show or anything. That was pretty amazing. I also saw Dan Deacon in 2022 at Auto Bar. Nothing really special about the show. It was just one of the best music experiences I've ever had in my entire life. His shows are very, very like performance based, and there's lots of like dancing and crowd participation and stuff like that. And it was just pretty amazing.
Nice. Well, anybody that you're most excited to see in your life perform?
I really want to see Bruce Springsteen really bad.
You got 4 hours to spare?
Oh, I'll make room. Who am I stupid excited to see? Band Blood Brothers is reuniting.
Yep.
And I had tickets to see that, and I was like talking about like a Blood Brothers reunion for forever. Like, oh man, I hope this happens, but it probably won't. And that's happening. I'm really excited about that. I'm seeing Dismemberment Plan. Also obsessed with that band. I cannot believe I'm seeing them. Who else? Seeing Weezer play Blue Album, but I've seen Weezer a bunch of times. I'm just like pretty moderately excited about that. I really want to see Cap'n Jazz. I have a Cap'n Jazz tattoo.
Nice. So I'll be seeing them in October.
Yeah, super jealous about that. They just got I think they posted about getting like a European booking agent and that they're touring in 2025. So hopefully there's some more US shows there. Really want to see that band. I think that's my whole list. I don't know. If Bomb Music Industry ever reunites, I want to see that bad. But yeah, like a lot of, I talk about this a lot with my friends, like a lot of our favorite bands who were like, oh, that band will never get back together, is back together and is currently playing shows. And then we just can't fucking fathom the fact that happened. Like all the bands that I wished was back together in high school, like my like pipe dream, like, oh, this band will reunite, like small weirdo punk bands, all of them are back together right now.
Well, it there's a reason why, because people my age who grew up seeing it live and are the same age as that scene, we now have enough money to go pay to see a lot of them perform all at once. You know what I mean? Where as I tell people all the time, yeah, I'm a child with adult money now. So it makes sense that these bands are getting back together because we all want to see them. We want to see them perform. We want to see the bands that either made one album and were done, or two albums and then were done and went on to do other things and come back together. You know, Cap'n Jazz, which exploded into two of the greatest fucking bands of all time in American football, and the Promise Ring. Like, yes, we're all waiting for that stuff to come back, and now that it's back, we're like, yeah. And the best part about that is them being reinvigorated and creating more music.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I'm hoping happens. I think that like the biggest thing with like the trend of bands reuniting right now is that a bunch of them have no intent to make new music.
Yeah.
Whereas like I feel like a lot of the reunions of like the 2010s and stuff, there was like more often than not a reunion album. But I'm really stoked that people are playing music again. I hope the weaker thens happens.
Me too. John Kay is one of my favorite performers ever. So that would be amazing. All right. So we're going to do a couple quick fire things here.
Sure.
And we will go. Do you remember the last song you cried to?
Yes. It was A Little Faith, A Bit of Romance by Me and Caprice.
Yeah.
It was live.
Nice. Something you listen to that people would be crazy upset to find out you listen to.
Oh man, crazy upset.
Yeah, like guilty pleasure that you people be like, what the fuck? I didn't know he jams on that.
Honestly, no. I'm really open about all the dumb things I like. I have no answer. I think all music is awesome.
It is awesome, but I always look at it this way, and I don't like it because it's a cop out. And that's my stance on it. I'm an old fuck, and I understand that. Yes, now I can say I listen to this and fuck you, but there's always that split second that you're listening to something and someone catches you listening to it or singing it out loud, and you get that one split second where you're a little nervous about their reaction. That's why I say no one is fully.
I totally get you. I used to be that way, but I'm just like not anymore. The only recent time that's happened to me was like about a year ago. I was jamming The Dare a lot, and I was in a car with people. And I'm like, oh, you guys would really like this, and they like looked me square in the face and like, wait, you're not listening to this like as a joke? What is wrong with you? And the Dare. He had like one single out at the time. He is now featured on the #1 song in America with Charlie XCX and Billie Eilish. So,
yeah. But still, you had that moment. So yeah. But you had that moment. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, at the very least.
All right. So the world's going to end in 5 minutes, meteors crashing in the earth, and you're forced to listen to one song. What song are you listening to?
Forced to listen to one song.
You get to pick it, but you have to listen to one song.
Hello Hawk by Superchuck.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a fucking sleeper.
Yeah, no shit.
Wow.
It's a good song.
Wow. I love the younger generation showing love to my boy Mac. Love that. All right. Favorite piece of music memorabilia or music things that you own? It could be your own guitar, it could be, but do you have any musical thing in your life that right now in your life you would never consider getting rid
of? Yeah, my copy of Ukame by the Brave Little Abacus. That is my favorite released full piece of music. And I spent like 3 years trying to track down a copy. Probably that.
Awesome. Nice. Well, we've been here for a little bit, and I know we all have other things to do in life. So before we move on to our final segment, I'd love to give you the opportunity, even though you don't dabble in it, tell people how to find out what it is you're doing, how to find the album, how to listen to it. Whatever handles you may have is now a perfect time to let everybody know where to find the album and keep up with what Combat's doing in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I imagine that it's on every streaming service ever. It's just the band's called Combat. Our new album's called Stay Golden. It's available now if you want to listen to it physically on vinyl by Counterintuitive Records. I have no clue if they are sold out yet. They could be. But hopefully there's a bunch of copies on there. Let me think what else. We're Combat Baltimore on Twitter and on Instagram. Yeah, that's it. I also run a DIY venue in Baltimore that has lots of shows called The Undercroft. It's The Undercroft MD on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, we are into our final segment, and it is our weekly threes. So Holden, pull up the thing that you listen to your music to, and we're looking for 3 things that you're listening to that you want other people to check out. You give your 3, then I give my 3.
Ooh, okay. Let's see. 3 things.
3 things.
Okay. Mine are How to Live Here by Good Luck. Velodrome by Second Grade. And You Lost Me There by George Clinton.
Nice. Oh, P-Funk. All right. Those are some good 3.
Thank you.
I like that. All right. So my 3 for this week. There's a band that broke up back in 1997. You know how we were just talking about
for sure.
Getting back together. But this band never got back together. But what transpired was someone found their recordings in a garage somewhere and mixed the album that never saw the light of day.
Oh. The
name of the band is called Underwater Sunshine. The name of the album is called Sucker Tree. And it is so power pop of the 90s that I can't believe that it never saw the light of day until recently, and just blows my mind. It is pure perfection, and the fact that it is now seeing the light of day is something that I'm very, very happy about. That a band that no one ever heard of, that wasn't around, someone found the recordings, listened to them, and said, this needs to be mixed and released to the world. So the name of the band is Underwater Sunshine, and the album is Sucker Tree.
I just added that. That sounds awesome.
Next is a one and done band who it's so funny that when people sometimes that I find create something perfect, and maybe that's all they were meant to create, is I love it, but I also hate it at the same time, because then I never get anything more from it. But it's a band called Swordfish, and the name of the album is called Rodea. They're from Michigan. It was indie emo, and they were a one and done album, and it was fantastic. And that was it, gone, but did great stuff. And last but not least, and considering these are in no particular order, Pretty Girls Make Graves. The name of the album is The New Romance. They were from Seattle. They were a post-hardcore band back in the early 2000s. But yeah, those type of things have really been on my radar lately, and really what I've been jamming at the store, at the music venue. So everybody, just like Holden, I run a nice little music venue and record store now called HiddenTrack Records in Boonton, New Jersey. So please come on by and check us out whenever you're in the area or ever want to see original music.
I'll be there tomorrow in New Jersey. So maybe I'll stop by.
Well, I will be there.
There you go.
I will be there. But Holden, first things first, thank you so much for what it is you do, for being an artist, and thank you for creating the music that brought two strangers together today to discuss it. I think it's really important in the world that people find some commonality in life, and that we can find it through music, the universal language of life, as I call it, music. It is extremely important. And so thank you so much for what it is you do. And thank you so much for being a part of the show today, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me on. It's awesome. That Pretty Girls Make Graves record is fucking sick.
It's amazing.
That's so awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, everybody, you know what time it is now. It's time to go out, listen to Combat, and have a great fucking time.
So this is how it ends. The last line of defense is guarding now. It seems my hope is fleeting. Running out of time, still I'm lying in my bed, but still I feel that rest is all that's needed. People calling and screaming, singing that they love you, but still it seems that you don't feel like listening. endeavors. I got sharper claws and leitmotifs. If you don't like it, fucking bite me. Better stay golden so you don't get caught standing out of place. Everybody's punk until someone has something to say. Think it's pretty stupid how the ones cheating have all cards in play. Be fucking morals getting trampled over bruised face. Better stay golden so you don't get caught standing out of place. Everybody's punk until someone has something to say. Think it's pretty stupid how the ones cheating have all cards in play. Be fucking morals getting trampled over bruised face. Better stay golden better. Better stay golden better. Better stay golden better. Better. I think that it's time for change. I think I can arrange that. Face facts.
Thanks again for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HiddenTracks99. Also, send all your submissions to myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Tune in next week. You may find your new favorite band, and don't forget to go out and have a great fucking time.